Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everyone? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan for yet another preview of a big game for the Eagles as they take on the Kansas City Chiefs. The first time Big Red and the Kansas City Chiefs will be back at the Linc since 2013, which was Andy Reid's first time back at the Linc as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. They won that game. That was Chip Kelly's third game ever that he coached. So it's been quite a while. Every time these teams play, it's a very interesting game, Adam. If you think about it, that game was not a blowout game. It was pretty close back then. And then obviously, if you remember in 2017, the Eagles went out to Kansas City in week 2, lost a close one there. Carson Wentz's Hail Mary at the end. I think it almost hit Alshon in the hands. They lose the game. Everybody's down on him because Doug Peterson didn't run the ball with Garrett Blunt. Yeah. And then they come home, beat the Giants on the Jake Elliott field goal, and then it's off to the races for the rest of the year for them.
It was funny because that was when the players committee went to Doug and said, dude, you got to stop passing it. That game, Wentz put it up 46 times. They only ran it with the running backs 13 times.
Yep.
And the players committee went into Doug and they said, look, this is ridiculous. And you remember what happened the next game? It wasn't the Giants where they ran it a lot.
No, then they did run it fairly well against the Giants, but then they really exploded the following week against the Chargers.
They ran a lot, though. Right. But they ran a lot. In fact, I forgot Wendell Small was on that team. Small and Blunt had combined for 24 carries. In fact, they had 33 carries in the Giant game.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next game was that was the Charger game. Yeah, you're right. The Thunder in the Home Depot Center. The Eagle fans took it over. I love it. The Chargers were so pissed. By the way, I remember talking to them that season. They were not happy that the Eagle fans took it over. It just was humiliating. And that game was a good game, though. By the way.
So what would that leadership council have said to Nick Sirianni this week?
Oh, my God. They
probably were mad at 13 runs. What would they have thought about 3? Open season.
Greco, I was talking to Greco Sell on Thursday. I didn't even realize this. Sanders didn't have his first carry till the 4th series. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
How is that even possible? You could tell me analytics all you want, but that's insane. It was one thing if they were down 24-0. The game was competitive in the first half. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an analytic in the world that can produce for you, me, or anybody listening a game that an NFL team won when running the ball 3 times. I just don't know if that's that you can produce that evidence.
I know.
If you do, feel free to send it to me.
I'm going to fight with Joe Batter. Yeah, Joe is. I haven't talked to Joe in a while, but I need to call him. He and I need to talk because he and I are going to have to battle over this one. He's the one who coerced me. No, I should say he's the one who basically showed me a lot of evidence how important it is to run pass way more in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
But what analytics does not, as one person who works in the NFL told me when we were talking about Philly's offense, he goes, analytics does not take into account to how the quarterback is playing. It only goes by numbers, by history. So if your quarterback is struggling mightily, you have complementary football. And that's the thing, since you and I did that show Wednesday morning, that was the kind of the thing that I got from a lot of people is that you got to play complementary football. And I'm not using that term with the Eagles. It's usually with the Titans. They play major complementary football with the running back. And here they don't really do that so far.
Right. They talked about that on Q&A, by the way, which was a great listen this week. It may have been the best Q&A ever. I mean, those guys did not pull punches. They were very critical, but fair. You can tell Quentin Michael, who came up through the Jim Johnson system, has no problem with zone defense, but would like to see him be a little bit more aggressive out of that zone. He pointed out the fact that they sacked Dak on what you call a fire zone blitz, which is not really a blitz because you're only rushing 4, but you're dropping an end and rushing a nickel corner that from the blind side that the quarterback doesn't expect. And therefore the protection team, it's really that the offensive line doesn't expect it either and doesn't slide to the nickel corner. So he comes free, hits the quarterback, which is what happened to Dak Prescott. And then, they got a sack. He wanted to see something a little bit more from Jonathan Gannon there. And, the discussion of takeaways and turnovers is constantly coming up. And it's a fascinating, I'm sure you hear this all the time, right? A lot of coaches and players, especially coaches, they talk about the turnover battle being one of the most important margins in all of football, right? If you win the turnover battle, especially on the road, you always hear you have a much better chance statistically of winning the game, right? So we've heard Jonathan Gannon emphasize turnovers. He's got some kind of sheet in the NovaCare. It's emphasized to want to create turnovers, obviously. But yet when you ask team, and Andrew DeCecco has a really good story about this on InsideTheBirds.com this morning, so check it out. When you do ask players on teams that aren't getting turnovers, why not? Their response is usually, well, these things come in bunches. Right. Sometimes you got to be in the right place at the right time. But you can't have it both ways, right? You can't say winning the turnover battle is something we focus on. It's one of the utmost important statistics in all of football, and then say that you don't have anybody because it's not a big deal because those things come in bunches. They're not something that you can control. I think that when you look at the NFL leaders and takeaways, whether it's individually or teams, you often see fairly talented players who are drafted high in the draft, first, second, and third round. Guys like Xavier Howard, or who he's a second-round pick, or I think Justin Simmons was a third-round pick. Obviously, like Dallas right now is tops, and they've put a lot of investment into their defense at the linebacker and the secondary level. Trayvon Diggs has 3 interceptions. He's a second-round pick. So when you have a defense like the Eagles for the last few years, where you're running linebackers out there that are all undrafted free agents, you're running safeties out there who are third-round picks or fourth-round pick. I mean, your highest drafted player in the secondary is who? Darius Slay, who you didn't even draft, right?
Second rounder.
You had to buy him, right?
Yes,
right. Yes. So I don't think I buy that. That turnovers are just a thing of momentum, and once you get the first, there's going to be a bunch of them. I look at the Eagles for the last 3 years and say they've done a poor job drafting in the secondary and that linebacker, and therefore they don't have playmakers to get those turnovers.
This defense, though, the problem with it is that their back is to the ball, the DB's back is to the ball. So the ways
you keep saying that, but I'm confused by that. They play zone. Zone is front to the ball.
They're the way I could just tell you by alignment, they're back. They're not as much as you would think. So what someone told me was that Eagles thought with the pressure they would get from their front four, that would help alleviate the issue of the DBs not being in position to get the ball, because what would happen is if you do it without pressure, these guys aren't going to get turnovers. If you get pressure, you're going to make the quarterback get rid of the ball faster, and they'll put the ball up, and you'll see it and you'll get the ball, something like that. So it hasn't happened though. That other than the Hargrave once again in the last game, and Fletcher with the touchdown.
Right. By the way, the guys are upset that Fletcher did not get credited with an interception on that. He got credited with it, even because the ball never hit the ground. It's kind of funny. The big guys always want interceptions.
Of course. But it's just I don't know if they're going to come in droves with this defense based on what we've seen so far. I don't know that. I do believe Gannon's a smart guy, and eventually they're going to get it. I learned my lesson. I remember talking to someone with the Giants in the 07 season. The Super Bowl season, when the players, they did not buy in at all to Spags' defense, and it was just completely different than they had done. And the first half, there were some players who wanted him fired. They just didn't buy into the defense. And you know what happened the second half? When they got it, and they took off. I know that's an extreme, but I'm just showing you how it can turn around. And again, it's only 3 games. The first game was good. Mm-hmm. But this last game was so troubling. I know was only the 3rd week of a brand new defense, and the last defense, it's like it never happened. The wide 9, it's like it doesn't even exist based on what they're doing now.
Oh, definitely.
So we have to
exist here now. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, and I'm learning, is y'all are learning too. We have to be patient. I know it's hard for fans to be patient. I totally understand your pain, and I understand Q&A's pain. We all watching this thing. It was a debacle, but it's going to take time for these players to get it. They got to figure out how to use Josh Sweat. I don't know what the hell they're doing with him. I know he wound up playing a decent amount of snaps, but he's not starting.
Right.
The linebackers were bad. The coverage was bad when Dak Prescott threw it. It was terrible. The tight ends ran free like there was 20 yards of space. I mean, it was a disaster, but I'm sure they're going to make their corrections. Unfortunately, they're playing a great team this week. but just try to be patient. It'll eventually get better. That will happen.
Yeah, I don't doubt that they will become a more stout. They'll start to figure out what Jonathan Gannon is preaching and where they're supposed to be. But I can think of 2 or 3 times already in 3 weeks where the ball, Steven Nelson, was it Slay or Nelson against San Francisco, that jumped right in front of the ball and then couldn't catch it. Anthony Harris 1 year led the league in interceptions.
Yeah,
that proved to be a right place, right time thing. He's never in his career. I think last year he had 0. Right.
Yeah.
So my point is, I do believe takeaways are a byproduct of talent as well. Some of the most freakishly athletic players in this league get takeaways, like your Tyrann Matthews of the world. They're smart, or they're just amazingly athletic, and I think the Eagles really lack that in the back end. I just think that they have steady eddies, and I don't think that they're. When you face the Tampa Bays, when you face the Kansas Cities, when you face Justin Herbert, the Vegas with Carr, when you face the good quarterbacks, you've got to be able to get your hands on balls. And I don't see this secondary being able to do that. And if they're not, then they got to be really stout. And I don't know that they're going to be stout enough to do that.
Fair enough.
So we'll see.
Yeah. And I would add this. Trayvon Diggs, second-round pick. You talked about being smart. Did you see? I watched the. I was told to watch because one of the guys I dealt with said, he goes, "Dude, you're totally wrong in thinking that the interception was by Devontae Smith falling him." He explained to me why. He said that Diggs read his eyes. He totally read it. Yes. Watch the all-22.
I actually watched it. I think you could tell on that in TV. When I watched it in replay a couple of times, the first thought I had was, all right, so if he doesn't fall, it's probably a pick. But even if it's not, it's either broken up or they collide. There's just no way that pass is completed. That wasn't a good pass.
It was going to be a pick.
Right.
I totally shows it by Koju tape. The Devontae Smith could have been 8 foot tall and 300 pounds. That ball was being picked off.
I would agree with you on that.
He read it, totally got him. And there's a tell. He has a tell. The way that he locks into that one pass target, Hurts. He needs to start looking off the safety. He's not doing that. That's another thing I picked up last couple of days. And obviously they're going to all this stuff that you could show him, but he's got to make the self-corrections, and it starts this week against Kansas City.
All right, speaking of that game, we'll have it all previewed on Sunday, 10 a.m. till noon. Greg Cosell will be back with us. You mentioned him, so it'll be Greg, Cosell, Jason Avant, Adam, me. It'll be a great show. Last week's show was phenomenal. We finally got everything right from a technical standpoint and a setting standpoint, so look forward to taking off for the rest of the year. With that, I mentioned Q&A is up on the platform. Andrew DeCecco's Fantasy Football Show is up on the YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out too. It always has some really good advice. Before we break down the game, we'll get into the transactions and the injuries, and there is some significant news on both of those ends. First of all, the Eagles have protected Jordan Howard, John Hightower, I always get this guy. Is it Coyote? Coyote
Owishika.
Yeah. We are awful. Yeah,
that
guy. And
we know
Elijah Riley. Yeah. Exactly, Elijah Riley. They did sign Sua Opeta to the 53 earlier in the week, so they're a little bit bigger. a little bit deeper, on the offensive line.
By the way, I was surprised that they didn't use an elevation for him. That was interesting to me that they didn't
last week.
The reason why they didn't, because you only get 2 elevations, it's because now they're so thin at guard. I get why they did that, because they probably would want to have to use. He'd probably be, if you use an elevation this week, you don't have one left for him, and based on the lack of depth at guard, that you don't want to use them all up. So I get that. That's why they did.
Well, the weird thing is they wound up signing him to the 53 anyway, though. So
no. What I'm saying is, let's say they didn't sign him to 53 and they elevated him. They would only have one elevation left. Right. You don't want to keep using them on him. You want to save them
because you would have to, if you use them up and you still want the player, then you have to sign him to the 53.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. It's weird that they just wound up signing him to the 53 anyway, right? I mean, I guess they didn't know going into the game, to your point, that Seumalo was going to get hurt. So that makes sense.
Right. That's why they're not wasting an elevation, because because what happens now, he's going to have. Being that he's on the 53, we'll see. We'll find out Monday whether they waive him or not to get him back to the practice squad. But because they're so thin now, and remember, Brett Toth is a nice story. It really is. He started to develop, and he only played the one game against the Jets, if I'm not mistaken, at guard. He's learning how to play the position.
Correct.
Jack Anderson's never played in an NFL game. You can't risk. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's true. You can't risk Suopeta not being with the team. I don't think. You can't.
At this point, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is a new offense, but it's the same offensive line coach, and if Jeff Stoutland signs off on you, you're probably gonna have a chance to be with the team.
That's correct. Although they did get some decent news on the offensive line, sort of with Jack Driscoll. We'll get to it in a minute. But Casey Tucker, offensive tackle, is back for like the 3 billionth time on the practice squad.
Somebody loves him. Somebody, I guess, Jeff.
Must be Stoutland, right?
Yeah.
And Cameron Malveaux, I was shocked when I looked into it and saw that he was not from Louisiana with the last name like Malveaux.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's a defensive end on the practice squad. So the big news really is Jordan Mailata has not practiced as the time of us recording this, right? Was out of practice both Wednesday and Thursday. And it sounds, I mean, Andre Dillard basically confirmed he's starting on Sunday against the Chiefs.
Well, in 6 hours, I'd be very surprised if Mailata's on the field. The way I understood it was a light MCL sprain. It was considered to be a 2 to 3 week injury. So him not playing this week is kind of right in line with that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully he'll start working next week. By the Malveaux kid, I remember him. He's out of University of Houston. I remember him with the Dolphins as an undrafted free agent 17. He was with them a lot. Arizona, Kansas City, Washington, San Francisco, Cleveland, and now the Eagles. So he's got length and he could also play inside at the tackle if you need him to. But the chances of him ever being on the 53 are remote. Mm-hmm. But somebody liked it.
All right. So the big question for the offensive line, because last week, even though Landon Dickerson struggled a little bit against the 49ers, more than a little, Nick Sirianni said, hey, that's our guy. He's still going to be the starting guard when we play the Cowboys. This week, all of a sudden, Nick Sirianni is not talking about any of his interior offensive line. We know he has to replace Isaac Seumalo. There's an opportunity to take Dickerson, move him to left guard, knowing that Brandon Brooks is eventually going to come back to play right guard, and then just put Nate Herbig at right guard for now. Or you can keep Dickerson at right guard because he's been practicing there, put Herbig at left guard. Or because Dickerson now is, even though he practiced, had a hip thing going on there against Dallas.
No injury.
It is a new injury. Are they considering? And again, we don't get they don't have to give you injury report info on guys who are in the practice window. So we don't know what Jack Driscoll is or isn't doing, but it does make you wonder, if Jack Driscoll is medically cleared to go, does he play?
Well, no, we'll have all that for Sunday. We promise you on our pregame show. We'll get it. Won't be hard, but with Driscoll is a pectoral strain, and it's around the 6-week mark that he's had it. So it should be close to being it. Typically, the players when they're on designated for return they typically don't return that first week, but it's not out of the question he could.
Right.
Depending on where he is, he should be close. And actually, we had this funny. The Eagles beat us to the scoop. We were going to put this out on our Wednesday show, but they announced it. But here's the other thing, right? Here's the thing about Jack Driscoll. I remember you and I were talking about this. We had said he needed to put weight on to be able to play maybe right tackle.
Right guard. No, he played right tackle.
I mean, right guard. Yeah, right guard. I don't know. The thing I want to find out is, how do they see their future with him? Because here's why. Let's look at next year, just real quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Kelsey retires, Dickerson will be most likely, not definitely though, because I know we were told that they were considering putting Seumalo at center, right? So one of the two, obviously Seumalo and Dickerson are going to be starting if Kelsey retires. The question is, if they move on from Brandon Brooks, who's that other guard?
Right. I mean, it could be Jack Driscoll. It could be they've got 3 picks in the top whatever.
Yeah.
We know they take offensive linemen every year. They prioritize them in free agency. Look, Seumalo's got to come back from Liz Frank, by the way. That's not easy.
Yeah, what's a 9-monther?
2 straight years of injuries for him. So nothing's guaranteed at the start of next year anyway. So we'll have to see what happens to him. And while we're on the subject of offensive line, it's not a 5-alarm fire to me, but the signal perks up a little bit when you see that Lane Johnson, who has had some ankle injuries, obviously, in the past, all of a sudden has an ankle injury or on the injury report with ankle listed there. That's why
he's playing. Yeah, he's definitely playing. I just don't know what ankle it is. You know what's really funny with injury reports? I don't believe you're required to list which ankle it is, but some teams list the right or left ankle. It's like really odd. I don't know. I'm not complaining. I love it when teams do. It makes it easier, but anyway.
Right. And of course, Jason Kelsey with the foot, but he was back at practice.
Yeah, that last week too.
Yeah. The big news, obviously, Rodney McLeod, full participant in practice on Thursday for the first time. So you imagine he will be on Friday unless it's not a good response. And that should put him on track, I would think, to play against the Chiefs. Now, I don't know if he's going to start.
They may have
to, wonder about his conditioning, but any bit helps right now. So it is good that he's on track to play.
Well, here we go. So Epps has got a shoulder injury. He's expected to play. So right now with Kevon Wallace on IR, you've got Harris, Epps, McLeod, and Shashiri. He can play safety. He's a hybrid player.
Yep.
So the question is, depending on how much they think McLeod plays, if they think Rodney could play 60% of the snaps, then they don't need to sign Elijah Riley off the practice squad or elevate him.
Right.
They protect. He's the only player I believe they protected every week. In fact, I know he's the only guy they've done that with. So they obviously really like the player. Do they need to have 4 safeties? Probably not. If Rodney's playing in when they practice later today, like you said, unless he had a setback, he's going to play. That's just it's kind of where he's at.
So I have to correct myself. I've been pronouncing Shashiri's name incorrectly.
Okay.
It's Shashere.
Shashere.
And you know what? He's been playing really damn good on punt coverage. Okay. He's been incredible. So I got to pronounce this guy's name right. Andre Shashere. Yeah, Shashere.
Got it.
All right. And that should be Davion Taylor has been able to practice, so we'll kind of see what
he should go. Today, if he takes full, almost certain he'll be active. The Eagles projected him to be their fastest special teams player and have a major role in punt and kickoff coverage. So that's where his role will be this season. I don't see him playing very much on defense unless A, he looks like he's all the way back. B, that because remember, this is a new defense, though he had a good spring. If he's learning well and doing well as a sub-package player, he could start working his way into the rotation because they need help. They need anybody who could process and get the job done at this point.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I wonder how they handle him because it is his calf and it's been a repeated injury for him. They put him out there a couple weeks ago thinking everything's fine, and then he leaves with a calf injury again. So
it's the same. It was Sirianni said it was scar tissue from the calf strain.
Right. That doesn't just go away. I mean, you open it up a little bit. And
it gets sore for a couple weeks. Right. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. As for the Chiefs, they're fairly good. I mean, really good compared to some other teams.
One guy's a problem,
right?
Rashad Fenton is their top backup corner who's got a concussion. But the big one is Frank Clark. Here's why. He got hurt in week 1. He didn't play last week. He played week 2, didn't play last week. So it's the same injury. It's lingering. They need him. Their defense has not played well. The pass rush has not been what they thought it would be. The run defense has not been good. We'll get to the preview soon, but I'll tell you that they're once again, there's an opportunity to be able to score points, but it's up to the head coach.
No doubt about it. But other than that, the Chiefs are ready to roll. Yeah. And, of course, the big injury that seems to be okay now is Andy Reid. He's healthy. Yeah. Sounds like he's good. It sounds like it maybe was something like dehydration or something like that.
No idea.
Yeah, who knows? But he's good now, and he'll be coaching. I didn't even know this. Or maybe Jason Avant mentioned it, or Quentin Michael mentioned it. He's trying to become. Is it the first NFL coach ever to win 100 games with 2 different teams?
No, I didn't know
that. Wow. Isn't that amazing? It's pretty
amazing. He's just look. It didn't end well in Philly in 2012. It was a disaster. Obviously, these things sometimes don't end well. But remember, the story was that a lot of his friends told him to take the year off. He said, "I'm not taking the year off." Right. All he knows is coaching, and We know he's gone through a lot of stuff personally, and but as a football coach, I mean, the guy just gets it done. I mean, it's just remember he brought Mark Donovan in from the Eagles, and some of the
other way around. Mark brought him in. Mark
brought him. I'm sorry, yeah, Mark brought him in. Although really, it was because he was available. I mean, Mark obviously helped, but what had happened was, if you remember, just kind of what was going on with the Chiefs at that point, the Cardinals got involved with it. Andy, if you look at the coaches that were available then, that was 2013. That was the chip chase.
Sure.
With the Browns and the Eagles, and then the Joe Banner claims that they backed off of. Though you know what, I've talked to him about it. I understand what he meant. They definitely were hot for him, and then after the interview process, they made a decision that they weren't as hot for whatever reason. But that chip chase was something else, man. I'll never forget that.
It certainly was.
One of these days, tell the story. Go ahead.
Andy Reid has 92 wins with the Chiefs. So
we'll get it this season.
I believe he is trying to become the first to get to 100 with 2 different teams. That's unbelievable. All right. Speaking of unbelievable, it's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. DraftKings is kicking off another week of action by giving all new customers a can't-miss offer. Bet just $1 on any football game this week and receive $150 in free bets instantly, no matter what. And this football season, all customers can swing big with DraftKings same-game parlays. The same-game parlays allow you to combine multiple bets for a bigger payout. This week, place a same-game parlay on any NFL game, and you'll be credited up to $25 if your bet loses. All right, that's a great deal right there. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code ITB to receive $150 in free bets instantly when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code ITB to get $150 in free bets instantly this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, new customers only, restrictions apply, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let us talk about the Eagles. We'll go with their offense versus Kansas. Are you there? I almost lost you.
Sorry, no, what happened was I hit the wrong browser and it knocked me out of the room.
That's okay. Those listening at home can't tell the difference. Those watching are going to wonder where you popped in and out of. But
anyway,
we were going to get into the offense versus the defense here. Yeah, Eagles offense versus Kansas City's defense. Adam, I think it's fair to say that two things. One, I think from a personnel standpoint, the Chiefs are a little bit better than their stats currently suggest they are. But even with that said, the Eagles cannot be offensively dormant again against this Chiefs team at home. I mean, the Niners were a tough, powerful team. It was unfortunate. Dallas, it's like they were just behind from the start and just completely out of whack. But you can't have excuses. You got to be able to move the ball at home against the Chiefs. Or else we really are going to have some issues if we're talking about another game where you're scoring 20 or fewer points. Then we got problems.
Exactly what I was going to say. The Chiefs give you room. They're bad. They have a bad run defense. Secondary is talented, particularly with L'Jarius Sneed. You're going to see him. He is so good.
Mm-hmm.
So good. One of my favorite young DBs in the NFL. Honey Badger's still there, a leader. Daniel Sorensen, who's seemingly been there forever. 2014.
Yeah.
Mike Hughes came over from Minnesota. They'll play a lot of nickel. Mike Hughes is the third guy. Well, actually, it's Ward and Hughes switch off. Shavarius Ward, who's been hurt, but he's back this week. And Fenton's their fourth. He's the top backup outside corner. So that would hurt them a little bit when the Eagles go 11 personnel. Look, they have talent. Jaron Reed, by the way, he came over from Seattle. He could rush the passer.
Yeah,
from the interior. He's a good player. Oh, and here's the big story. Playing Chris Jones at the end, not D tackle anymore. Reed's playing tackle, and they put Jones out at end. That's a really interesting move.
So Andre Dillard graded out fairly well against Dallas. I mean, he really, for especially if you consider that some were worried about a Winston Justice-like effort, but he played well. But as we noted before the game, that defensive end that challenged him on Dallas, not a very, he's not one of the upper echelon. Randy Gregory was he in there for the whole game? Or
what Cosell said when I talked to him, he said that they switched off. It was all speed, like you had said, I think, on our show, and you're right. You nailed that one. Pre-game, you were talking about how he does well against speed rushers, but not power rushers. That could not have been more right. That's exactly what happened. Like Gregory, he was fine against. He held up. Now again, they didn't run the ball, so that's where he's not as good. But whenever Micah Parsons, when he got lined up over him, he held his own.
Yep.
So look, give him credit. And by the way, the big thing with Dillard is he bulked up. He's way heavier. Now, how much stronger, I don't know, but I can tell you he's way bigger physically than he used to be.
Yeah, he is bigger physically, and I think he'll get a little bit more of a physical challenge, whether it's Chris Jones lined up against him. Remember, Chris Jones, as most people know, is a former defensive tackle who just has great athleticism to be able to move the defensive end. And also, if Frank Clark does play, he's another guy who's he plays with a chip. He plays with an edge. He plays with a roughness and nastiness that has been kind of a bugaboo for Andre Dillard in the past. So this will be, to me, a much better measuring stick for his progress as opposed to Dallas, which is, I think, it catered to his strengths a little bit more.
Yeah, and what they'll do is Mike Dana, 51, will be the guy who would start for he started last week for him. He's okay. Chris Jones is the guy, though, if Clark can't play. But that obviously would help the matchup, no question about it. I like their linebackers. Nick Bolton's a kid that was the second round out of Missouri, who's now starting because William Gay is hurt. He's on injured reserve, so he's not played yet. So that's part of why he's playing. And Anthony Hitchens, you might remember him from Dallas. Good run defender. They're good. I mean, the talent is there. They're just they're off to a bad start.
Right.
And you might remember Alex Okafor. He's one of their top backup DNs, and there's talent there. You're right. There's the kid Nadi, 91 is there, who seemingly is on the injury report every week but plays.
Yeah. Speaking of, the reason why Sorensen is playing is I'm guessing Juan Thornhill has been out, right? Because he's normally a starting safety for them.
Yeah, Thornhill, if you remember, he had the ACL a couple years ago, and he's talented. Yeah, I think
he got hurt again.
He might have gotten. Yeah, well, he's not on the injury report. Let me see if he might be on IR though.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think he's hurt for a little bit.
No, just Gay is on IR. I'm not seeing him. Yeah, he's.
Is he not on the team anymore?
No, he's on the team. Thornhill's on the 53. I guess he's just not.
Doesn't play. That's weird.
Let me look into this as you speak here.
I thought I saw him in
he played. Yeah, he played last week.
That's weird. Okay. Yep. Well, maybe I guess he's no longer. Starts for them.
Whatever. Well, he was a stud, but he was. I know that after he tore his ACL, he was not quite the same. But the kid, 38, Snead, he is. They play a decent amount of man coverage. As a matter of fact, they play. They are sixth highest in man coverage, about 41%. So I would think Snead will be on Devontae Smith. That would be my guess.
Interesting.
Could shadow him quite a bit.
By the way, Sorensen was leading the NFL in missed tackles through the first 2 weeks of the season. So
good for the Eagles because the run defense stinks.
Yeah, a little run, a little screen would really kind of be a good thing for the Eagles defense. Now, this should be a way better game also for Jalen Hurts because there should be more opportunities for him. And what I mean by that is, and this is something that Quentin Michael did a great job of explaining on Q&A, is that Steve Spagnuolo really likes specific blitzes, especially against quarterbacks that can run. He likes overloaded blitzes. He likes bringing guys down from the secondary. And what that does is obviously leave one-on-one matchups if you can pick it up and block it up. And it might leave the other side of the field with some green because you're bringing pressure from one side so you can get to run through the other side. So he said Quentin believes that there'll be really good opportunities for Jalen to strike some plays downfield, but also to use his legs and to move because there'll be, as long as you can see where the blitz is coming from and have a good feel for it, you can maneuver around and make some hay there.
Well,
so, listen, the guy needs a bounce back performance. We know that.
No doubt. Against zone, they gave up 66 completion rate. When they played man, about 70%. So that's actually a pretty good percentage. That means they're not covering well this season. You're absolutely right. There's opportunities. I'm telling you, later in the year, they'll be good. Their defense will be good. But right now, they're struggling. And, man, Sirianni, run the ball. I don't like saying it because I'm not a run guy. But, man, it's so obvious. Miles Sanders is so gifted. The fourth series of the game was his first carry. How does that happen?
I have no idea.
I've never heard of that.
No, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, look, as we shift focus to Nick Sirianni here, you got to come with something, man. You've got to come with something that stabilizes this offense.
What would you like to see?
All right, I'll give you a few things I would like to see. First of all, I'll give you some specific and some more big picture. Big picture, the ability to, I think we've talked about this a lot, have your scripted plays have to have a good flow to them, a sequence to them. You're running play 1, 2, and 3 because you're trying to set up something for 4, 5, and 6. That obviously means running the ball. Taking away the RPO from Jalen Hurts because through the first 3 weeks, there's clearly not an issue. And not totally. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say taking away. Limiting how many times I'm going to go RPO.
Well, you're going to have them.
I want to run on certain downs. I'm going to run on certain downs.
Are you going to have them under center then? If you're going to do that,
you don't have. You can still run from you can call running plays from the shotgun. You can call wide zone. You can go inside zone.
No. You mean for under center? Like I would like them to go more conventional in terms of old school. I'm with you, man. I agree with everything you're saying. I like it.
You know what? I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind coming out in a little 12 personnel.
Yeah, I was just going to add that. Yeah, I was just going to say, what about being under center? But anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a good idea. Absolutely. And then secondarily, I would like to see, well, I guess we're not going to just see pre-snap motion, even though we can talk about that. But Nick Sirianni clearly doesn't believe in it the way other coaches do. Here's the thing that and we'll talk about this on Sunday because I look forward to hearing Greg Cosell and Jason Avant talk about it. But, I mean, when you and I talk to enough people around the league to know that this isn't our just opinion alone. But when you have a quarterback who can run like Jalen Hurts, it serves more purpose to use pre-snap motion, not to get a tell on the defense. I understand there's other ways to get a tell, but you start moving guys from right to left and you get the defense focused on what's moving right to left. Your quarterback is moving left to right and going the opposite direction. And you just gave him an extra half a step to a step on the defense because you were moving other guys. So it's not about the tell. It's about the rope-a-dope or the setup. I mean, it's what the 49ers do really well. I think they use misdirection with their motion complementary because that confuses the defense. So screw the tell. How about just trying to confuse? How about you're telling the defense what you want them to see, but you're doing something else? Yes. You can do that more so with a mobile quarterback than a concrete quarterback. I don't get it.
This is why he needs a senior offensive assistant. He's wrong. I don't see. You set this up so well. When you listen to Sirianni talk, he's basically telling you that they're running a college offense without college concepts. RPO is great. Mm-hmm. What do you think? No college teams use pre-snap motion? Are you kidding me?
Right.
What are we doing here? And you set it up so well. It's so disjointed what he's doing. Mm-hmm. It's just there's no feel for it. There's no rhythm to their offense. I don't understand what. The first week, okay, great. He said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to help Jalen Hurts get off to a good start. We're going to get out of his hands quickly. It worked really well. That was smart. Mm-hmm. It didn't mean that's what their offense will look like this season. It was what it was going to take for their first game together in the regular season. Okay, great job. Gannon also did a great job. Second week, Sirianni regressed. Gannon still did a good job. You didn't like the 2 long drives, but nevertheless, fine. Okay, Sirianni's didn't do a good job. Maybe he'll bounce back against a beat-up Dallas front. Nope. He said, we don't care how bad Dallas's front is. We don't care how well you can run against them. Screw that. Mm-hmm. We think Jalen's ready. We're gonna throw it like crazy. We're gonna have a super high passing rate. My response to that would be, okay, if this has been week 13 and you're feeling really good about him, he's playing well, you think he could handle and process better, you think he's been processing for several weeks, go throw it 40 times. I'm good with that. But he's not there yet. You've got to have a feel for it. He does not have an understanding of how coaches look at particularly play callers, when the guy's not doing well, you don't throw the ball more. This is not Andy Reid saying, okay, you remember this when Andy would say, oh, when Donovan's inaccurate, let's throw more. It's like a pitcher. He'll eventually get it. I never liked that, but you know what? As time would go along, he would be right. Mm-hmm. This is he just had a 7th start. Like, what are we doing here?
It's a great question. I was really disappointed to hear him also say that teams are starting to figure out other teams that use motion, so it's not like the great innovative offense that it used to be. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you could say the same about RPOs. A lot of teams are now preparing and planning and practicing against RPOs, and you're still running those anyway, and so is every other NFL team. It's not always about them. It's about you and your ability to dictate and your ability to put the ball in the hands of your playmakers. Everybody knows the 49ers are going to run motion and misdirection and give you eye candy, but they also know that it's going to work for them because they're going to put the ball in the hands of guys like Deebo Samuel and Raheem Mostert and George Kittle. George Kittle.
George Kittle.
Yeah. So, I mean, because that's who their best playmakers are in Ayuk. So to you asked me about what I'd like to see also, give me a formation that has Miles Sanders and Jalen Reagor in the backfield. Let the ball go. Let people think Miles Sanders is going to run an outside zone, but make it an inside handoff to Reagor and see if he can't cut through them, or vice versa. Like you were practicing that in the OTAs. You said you were going to take your weapons and move them all around and do things. Well, what are you doing? Are you moving them around?
Right. And where are the explosives for Gainwell? Where's a hour route? Where's a post wheel or wheel? Like where's all the? I know it's only 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, there was that wheel, and Jalen Hurts missed it.
He threw it on his hip, But I want to see Kenny Gainwell should never have less than 10 touches, and I don't care what the score is because he should be their hurry up back if they're behind.
Mm-hmm.
This is, by the way, I know for a fact that this staff pushed hard for Gainwell. Okay, well then use him. Come on, let's go.
I'm sick of the ball in the hands of your playmakers, but the ball in the hands of your playmakers.
Thank you.
There we
Scream to the people in the back.
And when we say that, it doesn't just mean target them down the field. It means put the ball in their hands. Okay. All right. Eagles wide receivers against these corners. Again, I think they'll be, as long as they can, as long as they can block it up, which you would have to think the Eagles should be able to do. I know the whole 3 backups on the offensive line thing, but this is what we talk about with the Eagles. They usually have better depth on the O-line than most other teams because they invest there. You got a first-round pick playing left tackle. You've got a second-round pick playing one of the 2 guard spots, and then we'll see what happens at the other spot. But you're still generally better off than most teams. So you should be able to block it up, and you should be able to have some kind of flow on offense against this team.
And if they have an issue, they could bring an extra tight end in. Stoll is their 3rd tight end. They use him specifically for 12 personnel. You can do that. There's things you can do to alleviate that issue if they're not playing well in the offensive line.
Right.
I'm interested to see how Dillard responds particularly if they're running. It should be, but we'll never know.
Can run to the right.
Yeah, right.
Run to the right.
Right. That's funny. It's funny because you had the stat you were talking about from Next Gen Stats about them throwing to the right a lot. What's it, like 66% the first 2 games?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that?
Yep.
I'm just interested to see if Sirianni's going to learn from what happened last week and if he's really going to take responsibility, what the approach is.
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm just puzzled. Sanders, a very good training camp. A couple of the writers said, and it's interesting that Sanders didn't practice a ton. He didn't get the ball a ton. It was more they got a lot of work for Gainwell. And maybe it's just because they didn't need him to. They knew Sanders was a starter. There was no question about that.
Right.
I don't think that plays into what's happened in the regular season, but it does make you wonder, though. How do you see Miles Sanders? Like, okay, training camp, you didn't have to overwork him. I get it. It was, he's your starter. You know who he is. You don't want to overwork your starter running back. Okay.
Dude, they didn't even play him in the first preseason game. It made you think that he was going to get the ball 25 times a game.
Right. No, but he was the guy they held out, remember?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I meant. He didn't play. Like, he's the only one.
I don't know what's going on. It was just very odd the way that they're doing this. But the fact of the matter is you cannot win. Hurts is not at the point where you can win with him yet. You're just not. He's unable to play at the high enough level where you go, okay, we're good there. Let's see what else he can do. He's mastered the game plan. He's executing. He's processing well.
Mm-hmm.
He's not there yet. But again, it's only week 3. Let's see what happens this week.
All right, we'll move on to the Eagles defense versus the Kansas City offense. First, we got to tell you, if you want to get an advantage over your sportsbook, please download BetQL. It's the only app you'll need to make smart bets. They've got a best bets computer model that scans over 350,000 unique bets a year to give you the best bet recommendation for every game, every major sport, and you get the reason behind why you should place the bet. They've got a model that covers everything from spreads to over-unders and player prop bets. And if you don't want to use the model, if you're the type of person who just likes to do the research yourself, BetQL has the necessary tools for you for your betting research needs. They've got everything from sharp data, line movement, team summaries, lineup and injury breaking news, even a leaderboards to track your success. So head to the App Store or Google Play Store now to download BetQL. You can also go to try.betql.co/ITB. Just enter the discount code ITB at payment checkout for 25% off of their subscription findings. Also, check out their sportsbook offers page if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at any one of the many, I should say, sportsbooks listed. So don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this football season using BetQL. All right, so a really funny line from the Q&A show. I'm going to keep referring to it because it was such a great show.
Mm-hmm.
But Jason says to Q, well, all right, let's talk about this Kansas City game. What do you think Andy Reid's going to do to attack the Eagles defense? And Q pauses to think about it, and Jason goes, don't worry, I got this. Whatever he wants.
Right, exactly. Right.
Do whatever he wants to do.
And a couple people said that on one of the message boards. But look, here's the thing, though. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had arguably his best game as an NFL player. He looked real smooth. They have a good offensive line. They've rebuilt it completely with 5 new starters. It's really unbelievable what they've done. They traded for Orlando Brown as their left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Tooney is their left guard, who's one of the highest paid guards in football. Creed Humphrey, second rounder, is their center. Trey Smith, who's playing for Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, who broke his hand. So Smith, Duvernay-Tardif's healthy, but he's not even playing anymore. He was inactive last week. And Lucas Niang, who I wasn't sure if he'd be able to be a starter at right tackle, but he is. And they've got really good depth. They're one of the deepest teams in the NFL. They actually have 5 good backups.
Yeah.
Wiley, Blythe, Allegretti, Duvernay-Tardif, I mentioned. So they're pretty good there.
Almost as if they lost the Super Bowl because they didn't have offensive line depth.
Exactly. And they start 5. Have you ever seen this? I wonder what the record is for a team that played in the Super Bowl having 5 new starters on the offensive line. It's pretty remarkable. And Mike Remmers, too, has been a starter.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a good offensive line. It's a big offensive line. In fact, Adam, someone told me, a personnel source told me that's been watching Kansas City a lot. He feels that they're actually running the ball a little bit too much, which is something I've almost never heard from an Andy Reid coach team. But I think his point was that it seems like they're running a little bit more than normal because, if you look at they don't have Watkins anymore. They really don't have a number 2 wide receiver opposite Tyreek Hill that you would classify as a above average possession receiver in the league. They've got splash guys in Mecole Hardman and the kid from Florida, Demarcus Robinson. And, Greg Cosell really likes Byron Pringle. Every once in a while, he pops up in a game and does a few things. But it's basically Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And after that, the passes get spread around.
Yeah, they're really a 2-pass target team, no question about it. It's right. Hill, it's Kelce. Kelce, here's the problem the Eagles are going to have here. They gave up so much room. Dalton Schultz had a great game, last week against the Eagles. He had a nice year filling in for Blake Jarwin. He's not as athletic as Jarwin. They gave up too much room in their zone. They're going to have to tighten it up, or Kelce will have 150 to 200 yards. I'm not joking. I'm telling you, he could have his best game of his career. If they don't tighten this thing up, Schultz had so much room to run. It was absurd.
I think you're right. I think they have to do 2 things: tighten the windows, make the tackles, because Kelce is the type of guy who's going to catch that ball in front of you, turn around, either run around you, run through you, make 2 people run into themselves as he sidesteps you. He's just that good. And this Eagles backfield is just not. That's the reality. They're not that good. So I even think the Chiefs could lose this game, and that guy could still wind up having 125, 130 yards.
So here's the thing: the Eagles play the most zone coverage in the National Football League. It's really, by the way, it's by far the most zone. It's 9% higher than the Rams, who are playing way more zone this year. It's interesting with the change in Raheem Morris being their D coordinator. But Eagles are playing zone coverage nearly 91% of the time, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, you're going to get a lot of stuff underneath. Crossers for Hill, which they do a ton of, intermediate crossers.
Yep.
Obviously, Kelsey, getting him going forward. I'm telling you, Gannon's going to have to readjust his scheme a little bit. You got to tighten. I get they play only going to play zone. I understand that. You're not going to go to all man. That won't happen. But you better have a better plan, because if Dak had to throw 35 times last week, he might have had 450 yards. That's how bad their zone was last week.
Right. Yeah, and let's face it, even if they played way more man, that's not exactly a great matchup for them either.
No, not for anyone.
They got nobody that's going to cover Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
So, and even McCole Hardman in that, I think McCole Hardman's a better player you want to keep in front of you in zone, because he doesn't, for whatever reason, he seems to be a splash player. He catches deep balls, but he's not a guy who's catching 7 or 8 passes a game by the middle, turning a rack type guy or yak type guy.
Right. So, no, it's and the other thing is Edwards-Helaire did score last week on a 10-yard catch, but he's not catching the ball as much as I think he probably was supposed to coming out of LSU. But the other thing is Mahomes. I ran something by Cosell and he said it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I'd heard he's been predetermining, like, he likes to run around. He's a scrambling type quarterback. He could run, but he scrambles a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's predetermined. You know what? I want to make a play. So he'll roll right. He'll go left. He'll go right. And then he'll throw it across his body. We know no one else can do it like that. Right. But he's doing it too much. And he's not been quite as accurate and as comfortable as we're used to seeing. And Greg said he's making way too many second reaction plays. I thought that was interesting when I ran that by him on Thursday. So it doesn't mean he can't do this against the Eagles, though. That's the problem, because the Eagles are so weak at linebacker. So far they have been. They got to play much better and be way more disciplined.
I think the Chiefs, I can't imagine that they're going to run a lot more than normal just because Dallas did, because that's just not Andy Reid. But what I do think that they can glean from the Eagles' deficiencies at linebacker is that they can probably screen the hell out of this game. I mean, I'm thinking, and I'm not talking those wide receiver tunnel screens. I'm talking about those when you get your offensive lineman out in the second level and throw it to your running back or your tight end, and you got the big blockers in front of them. Those are the type of screens that Andy loves, and those are the type of screens that I think can really hurt this Eagles defense, because if Alex Singleton and Eric Wilson and TJ Edwards aren't even doing a good job of getting through open gaps like they were, or getting blocked by tight ends like they were against Dallas, then what's going to happen when Andy's got these big guards and tackles flying at him in the second level and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire running behind it? It's not going to be pretty. So I agree. Seem to think Andy, I wouldn't be surprised if Andy came out with 5 screens on the first 2 possessions and dared them to stop him.
He hadn't had Clyde CH has not had a lot of them, but we'll see.
Who's their other back? They have a screen
Darrell Williams.
Back, don't they? Yeah. Oh yeah, Darrell Williams.
Darrell Williams is the power guy who gets some of the goal line carries. He'll catch it.
Right.
They let the Damian Harris is long gone, and then they have Hardman, as he said. Demarcus Robinson's their third or fourth, depending on what the week is. Pringle and Robinson are their top backups, outside receivers, and that's pretty much it. Blake Bell only comes in to block. He's been around forever. And that Fortson guy, out of the blue, he scores a touchdown. And I was like, who is this guy? They always have these. Remember Deion Yelder was there for a couple of years. Fortson from Valdosta State. He was with them. He was with their practice squad last year. But he scored last year.
Where Shannon Sharp went to college, Valdosta State?
What did Shannon go to? Well, that's a good question. I'll check that out. I can't remember.
You'll check it out? All right. While you check that out, I'm going to give you another concern sort of that I might have.
Savannah State.
Savannah State. Okay, I was close. I think somebody really good though came from Valdosta State. I'll have to
probably
have that player for the pregame show.
Right.
Yeah, probably. Do you think Fletcher Cox is playing really well?
I think look, I know he was ill last week. That was obviously a problem. But I think he's playing okay. I've not heard that he's not doing well.
I have not seen anything kind of jump out. I mean, obviously Hargrave is playing out of his mind.
He's getting pressures. He's getting pressures by tape study, but he's not. Look, we've said this. He's not the same player he once was. Anyone who's watched a coaching tape would tell you that, and I've heard that from several people. But he's still a good football player. He's not elite anymore. I think that's fair based on what we've been told.
Yeah, no, that I know that. I'm just wondering if he's even playing at normal last 2 years Fletcher Cox level.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
All right, it was just something. I'm going to look into that a little bit more and see what people think, because you just haven't heard his name a whole lot. I mean, I know he had the touchdown and everything, but that was Hargrave's pressure. If I'm not mistaken, that caused it.
Javon Hargrave is an absolute superstar. This guy, when we started the season, I said he's going to be my breakout player of the year. I was just basing it solely on what I saw, and I ran it by some people, and they said, yeah, he's had a great camp. Let's see if he can do it in the regular season. His energy is the reason why. He doesn't stop. He's relentless. Now, he did have some plays he liked to have back versus the run. They got moved. They got it. Folks, if you get access, watch it. I watched it on Thursday. Wait till you see him. Wait till you see their line get moved. It's not fun watching an offensive line, if you're the Eagles defense, move you, but they got moved off the ball. The Cowboys offensive line.
Well, it's a good offensive line,
back. Right? But way too much.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I mean, if you're gonna double team the two tackles, right, and devote 4 guys to blocking 2, then those linebackers have a nice open gap to flow into and make the tackle, or at least meet the running back at the line of scrimmage. But for whatever reason, they're just not instinctively quick to the hole. And by the time they get there, the running back's already through, and Zeke will lower a guy like Zeke, lowers his shoulder, and he can get past an Eric Wilson or Alex Singleton. They got to figure out a way to play a line scheme that diverts the running backs to the edges to help these linebackers out, because these are not downhill linebackers. They're just not.
Totally. Yep.
They're not. And at some point in the offseason, they're going to have a serious conversation about how many years they think can get away without having someone that they drafted at least in the 2nd round as a linebacker, or a 3rd round pick who should have been a 3rd round pick.
I agree, man.
As a linebacker.
And
maybe even a safety too.
You're not the first person to say that to me this week. It's funny how that came up out of the blue. Someone brought up to me, he's like, Philly needs linebackers. The worst way with size and talent. I'm like, I hear you. I got it.
And I'm not trying to poo-poo or dismiss what Alex Singleton has accomplished. He's a good story of success. He is not an elite linebacker, though. He's not a Pro Bowl level line. He's not a guy who's going to run into that gap. And I mean, he's no Fred Warner. He's no, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's just not that guy. So
we got it. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So that's about it. That's what I expect from the Chiefs offense. And we'll see if the Eagles defense can be a little bit more stout against the run this week. And no, I agree with you. I think when you're facing Mahomes and this offense, Jonathan Gannon has to do something different. There's absolutely no doubt in our minds that he has got to, whether it's disguised coverages or blitz a little bit more, or maybe the occasional man that they're not expecting, or maybe a little cover one. You play a little zone on one side or man on the other in quarters. Whatever it is, you just got to do something better and different if you have
very predictable
slowing this team down.
The splits, they play split safety a ton. That's the only man coverage they have is when they play split.
Right.
It's you got to do something. I understand they're running a new scheme. I get it. It's going to take time. I'm learning the hard way when people tell me, man, it takes so many weeks for a brand new defense comparatively to the wide 9 and what you do behind it. So it's so different. They don't do anything the same from the previous defense. So the guys who are here have to learn the old defense and get these new techniques. It's the technique for the defensive linemen. Mm-hmm. It's the way that they're playing read and react. They're not playing the wide 9 get upfield. So look, I get it. It's different, and it's going to be painful. There's going to be a lot of pain with this in the first half. I still believe, though, the second half is where they're going to make not a run to be in the playoffs, but they're going to look a lot better, and you're going to start feeling a lot better. But this week, folks, there's a puncher's chance. You never know, especially if they do run the ball well and they stay committed to help the quarterback out.
All right, check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of Philadelphia sports teams. They're for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So make sure you go and read all of their great work on PHLSportsNation.com. And on Twitter, you can find them at PHLSportsNation. We'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you head into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get the best deal. If not, just go see them at skymotorcars.com. All right, this is not going to be the fun time for this podcast for our listeners, I imagine. It's our prediction time. Before we get out of here, we have to give who we think are going to win. So I will start with you. First of all, our records are not so good. You're not changing this time? Okay.
No, right. I am not. I'm not. I promise you. I what did you say? What did you say to me in text? You weren't very nice.
Well,
when I changed it, remember, because all week I went with the Cowboys and I changed it at the last minute.
Yeah, I said, what team loses their starting left tackle and makes you then change your pick to them winning instead of losing?
Yeah, I here's why. I chose to believe.
I called you a coward. That's right.
Coward, meanie. No, here's what happened. I chose to believe, to have faith in Sirianni, who's going to learn from his awful job that he did against the Niners. He didn't learn. Right. That's the problem. And I'm out on Sirianni. I don't understand how to run an NFL offense yet. He hasn't shown me yet. I do believe he'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
Do believe he'll get it. But right now he's a novice and he's not there yet. He's just not.
Right. So you're going to pick the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm guessing?
Eagles 20, the Chiefs 27.
27-20. All right, that's a good score. I'm also going to go with the Chiefs. I think they're going to score more points. But I think it's going to be a closer game than maybe some people think. So I'm going to say 31-27. All right. Chiefs 31, Eagles.
See the weather.
27.
31. Wow. You know what's funny? I would like to go high scoring. I would, if Sirianni had gotten, if he called 3 good games, I would go with you. I'd go over. Oh, wow. It's really going to be warm on Sunday. Oh,
yeah, is this supposed to be 80 degrees?
Whoa.
Yeah, low 80s. Whoa. I'm telling you, that's throwing weather, my friend.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I was not expecting that. That's good. That's good for offense. You know,
it is.
Can't be bad. So cool.
So does that mean you want to? Are you recalibrating as we speak, or are you sticking? With
I'm sticking 27 because I don't trust the offense right now. I just don't know what he's going to do. I just don't know. I'm at the point now. I have no idea what Sirianni is going to do. No idea.
All right. Chiefs are coming off 2 straight losses, by the way, which is not good. I know the Eagles have lost 2 straight too, so you figure the law of averages has to come in for some team, but usually it favors the better team. And I would think that would be Kansas City. They scored 33 against Cleveland. Cleveland has a good defense. They scored 35 in a loss to Baltimore and then 24 last week against the Chargers. I'd like to watch a little more tape of that game and see what happened there. But it stands to reason they're going to be in the 30s. So we will see. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Big thanks, of course, to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube. His channel is called Sports Talk with Broads. He's got a website called broadsmedia.com and his Twitter account @Broads81. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.